Welcome to Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. We are recapping Week 7. That's everything from Tank Bigsby to Tank Dell, a difference of 23.8 PPR fantasy points, and everything from Brock Purdy to Brock Bowers, the difference between QB 10 at the moment and tight end 3, with Bowers actually outscoring Purdy in PPR 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. What'd you think of that intro, guys? Pretty
Very
good.
fancy. Well done.
Did either of them have a passing touchdown?
Who?
Well, Dave was making fun of people who use PPR scoring to compare quarterbacks, and I was just not sure you need to use hit 6-point or 4-point for Brooks because they had the same number of passing touchdowns.
You're absolutely right. But yeah, okay, fine. So just PPR. Damn it. Terrible intro. Just awful. All right, we have a lot of news for you. We have some big injuries to talk about. Jamey will be on shortly. Yesterday was his birthday, and I totally forgot, so we're going to surprise him with some birthday stuff. But let's get to the big news and then the big winners and the big losers. And Jaden Daniels left with injured ribs, but it's not expected to be a long-term injury. Really want him back next week against Caleb Williams. Washington at home against Chicago. Aiden O'Connell reportedly has a broken thumb, so we know what the offense looks like with Gardner Minshew. And honestly, Jacoby Myers, if he's available on your waiver wire, hopefully he's back soon. He could be pretty good because right now it's just the Brock Bowers and a little bit of Alexander Mattison show. But then, of course, Deshaun Watson left with an Achilles injury, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson also got hurt. So what do you guys make of this? Are we expecting a big boost, at least for Njoku, who had a huge game today?
Yes.
Dave, you can start with your thoughts on Cleveland.
He might be among the biggest winners of the week. Just the fact that David Njoku in PPR tied or outscored all but 3 quarterbacks.
Wow.
Week 7, that's through the 4:00 game. Here are his numbers. This is just with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. 19 routes run, 7 targets, 5 catches, 41 yards. It's a 37% target per route run rate. That's really good. I don't think he's been anywhere near that number with Deshaun Watson ever. And then he gets hurt. Jameis Winston comes in, 10 routes, 3 targets, 2 catches, 12 yards, a touchdown, 30% target per route run rate. We know Amari Cooper is not coming back. We know Deshaun Watson probably not coming back. David Njoku set up to be the number 1 target for Cleveland again, and someone who could be an absolute slam dunk must start at tight end. Man, we could use that.
Yeah, hey, Jamey.
Hey.
Jamey's here. And Heath, we were talking on FFT Express that you are much more optimistic if it's Jameis Winston and not Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
For the pass catchers, yes. For the offense as a whole, I think what Dave said about Njoku stands, regardless of who the starting quarterback is. David Njoku is going to be a top 4 tight end rest of season, maybe top 5. Whoa, you made that face.
All right, let's go. Ready?
Kittle, Bowers, McBride, Njoku.
Kelsey. I'm definitely going Kelsey over Njoku. And I would consider Ferguson. I think we're again putting a little bit too much stock in like one of the
in the second half of last year.
Right. Think back to that.
If Njoku had Joe Flacco coming into the season, he would have been drafted as a top 5 tight end.
Yes,
for sure.
I think I had in this.
But who's the starting quarterback for the Browns, though? That's the question.
6. Right. If it's Dorian,
not going to be Deshaun Watson, and that's good enough for me as far as this is concerned.
I don't know about DTR.
So you're that high on Njoku with DTR?
Did you just hear the numbers with him with DTR today?
Yeah, still, I don't know, man. It makes me a little nervous. I mean, he's must. It doesn't really matter because must start.
Right. He's must start guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's probably just semantics. Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. So then let's go to the rest of the injuries here. Brandon Ayuk feared to have a torn ACL, just a total bummer. And Deebo Samuel barely played. He had an illness and obviously wasn't right, so he barely played. Purdy struggled. Did have 2 rushing touchdowns.
Who was the best wide receiver on the field by the end of the game?
Jacob Cowing.
Pearsall.
I mean, it was bad.
Ronnie Bell.
Jerry Rice on the sideline, because that would be the answer too.
Noah Gray.
Noah Gray led all receivers? No, not Kittle. Kittle led all receivers. Noah Gray led the Chiefs in receiving. So we'll talk about the 49ers.
If Tom Hanks came back from the island on Castaway and he saw that game and you said to him, this was the Super Bowl from the previous year, would he have agreed with you or thought you were lying?
He would have been, no, bad.
He probably would have shrugged his shoulders and then said, I don't want to play fantasy football this year. There's too many injuries.
I'm sure he just would have said, Wilson!
Probably. All right, DK Metcalf. Apparently, the knee injury is not serious. Don't know if that means multi-week or not, but not season-ending for DK Metcalf. Juju left with a hamstring injury almost immediately. Jordan Whittington played 4 snaps. Sorry if you started him. And Demario Douglas was in and out of the lineup. He had an illness that we didn't know about. So it's kind of a frustrating week with Douglas, with Whittington, and certainly with Deebo Samuel. But Jamey, what are your thoughts on the?
Was there any word on what happened to Antonio Gibson?
No, he got hurt and he came back in.
He got hurt?
Yeah, he left for a spell and then came back in.
Right at the beginning. Jamey, what are your thoughts on the 49ers going forward? Dallas this week, then a bye.
I mean, obviously, when there's been a guy missing, the other two tend to step up, and hopefully we get McCaffrey back soon, which, doesn't seem to happen until after their bye. But look, this was going to be a bad matchup for Jordan Mason, and it played out that way. You hope that Debo's going to be fine, the illness notwithstanding, that is going to keep him out long term. And Kittle should, get back to being George Kittle again. They're going to be facing, I'm guessing, still a banged up Dallas defense. I don't know what Micah Parsons' status is going to be, but no DeMarcus Lawrence. So it should be a bounce back game for those guys, assuming everybody's healthy.
It kind of stunk for Mason. He played a ton. He had all of their short yardage goal line snaps. He didn't score. I thought he looked really tentative in the first half, and that was something that I was very concerned about coming into the game. But he looked a lot better in the second half. It seemed like he kind of got yelled at maybe and said, "You're a running back, dang it, go out there and run over people." And he did, and he looked better in the second half. But now he's got this game against Dallas and then a bye, and then is Christian McCaffrey back? And if that happens, then where does Mason go?
He also kind of it was a bad matchup and a bad game, but Brock Purdy had 2 1-yard touchdown runs.
Right. But
it's not like they didn't give Mason opportunities first.
Yes. And then when it's, again, just those are 2 opportunities that you would think Mason would get anyway. Why risk the injury to your quarterback? And maybe it's in their mind that they don't want Mason to get hurt again on those types of short yardage car crash plays. So he's one of my losers for the week, Adam.
Well, do we all think that Deebo Samuel is going to be a stud moving forward?
It's very possible. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, Jawan Jennings is expected back next week. So
yep, he's back in play.
At least it's possible.
In play.
Yeah.
Jawan Jennings is going to be pretty enticing on the waiver wire, though, to be honest with you.
Jennings will be one of the guys you look to pick up. I think you're going to take a speculative ad on Pearsall just to see if he can become anything. The deeper leagues, as we always talk about on Tuesday, cowing also, just to see if you're stuck.
He made a big play.
I mean, look, it should be a big opportunity moving forward for Kittle and for Deebo.
Yeah, one of the guys we need to watch the film of this game to see how open Pearsall got throughout the game. Because if he's getting open, that the coverage isn't going to be tight on him.
There were a couple of times where Brady made reference to no separation.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Do you guys?
That was about Pearsall, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then I don't want to pick him up at all.
You guys know the interrupting cow knock knock joke?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just. How about Team Name Tuesday interrupting cowing? Right. It's great.
Oh gosh.
Do you know the joke, Jamey?
How about Quiet Adam?
Do you know it? Knock knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow. Oh, Jamey, it's jerk. All right, biggest winner, biggest loser. Dave, why don't you give us the biggest winner?
Well, I thought Njoku was one of them, and we can talk about some quarterbacks that I guess we met expectations with them, but I'll give another winner who probably isn't the biggest winner, and that's Tank Bigsby, who basically won the game for Jacksonville. He was their big winner. I don't see how they relegate him now. He's their best running back. And I know that sounds crazy because I've got Travis Etienne, but he does more for them than Etienne can. He can run people over. He's physical. He's got some breakaway speed too. When game script is favorable, he can really be a winner for fantasy managers as well as the Jaguars. Green Bay next week, they got pummeled by Joe Mixon on Sunday. At Philadelphia after that, then Minnesota, then Detroit. There are some games in there. I mean, it could be all 4 of them where game script could be unfavorable for Jacksonville and it could be messy for Bigsby. But maybe he can be the reason why they're competitive in some of those games and he can get some touchdowns and some decent work. So I thought he was a winner.
Is the smarter thing to do here to hang on to Bigsby or to try to sell him to the Travis Etienne manager for a flex-worthy starter? a number 3 running back or a number 3 receiver or something like that.
I guess the question would be is if you're the ETN manager, are you going to overpay for Bigsby? Because if I'm the Bigsby manager, I want something very high end in return because Bigsby could be the best running back for the Jaguars moving forward.
Do you think there's a chance they move ETN?
So Prisco asked me this today in the middle of our show, and he said this was evaluating. This is about Trent Baalke. If Bigsby's a winner and ETN's a loser, which side does Baalke claim victory on?
Yeah.
You know, so like if you trade ETN, you're admitting that you wasted a first-round pick on a running back, unless you're getting something great in return. Trade in the NFL,
Right?
who's giving up significant value for Travis Etienne right now. You know, so I think if you're the Jaguars, you have to play your best players. And right now, what makes the most sense for them, which I think is what they were trending, is that Bigsby is their main runner, and ETN is on third downs and passing situations.
Okay, would you guys rather have Tank Bigsby or just going to look at some names here? Man, this is tough.
So you said a flex-worthy player. I think you should be aiming for a guy who has been in the flex range, but you think can be better than that moving forward. Don't aim for somebody who you think is going to be a flex because that's probably what Bigsby's going to be.
So, like, if I was receiver needy and had running back depth, I would be looking to trade Tank Bigsby for the floor starting would be somebody like Jalen Waddle.
I was about to say that. What about Jamison Williams? Would you rather have Jamison Williams coming off a horrible game or Tank Bigsby?
Bigsby.
I might take Jamison. And you might be, that seems like a trade that might be able to happen.
So the thing that I'm worried about Jamison is that we've seen now 3 games in a row of the Lions offense looking still pretty solid and Jared Goff throwing 25 pass attempts or less.
Yeah.
And not a lot of them going to Jamison.
Oh, right. It's 4 games in a row with 3 or fewer targets, I think, for him. All right, we got to take a break here, and we'll get moving here. We'll talk about some losers. We have a segment called Adam Makes Ridiculous Fantasy Football Statements, but when you think about it, these are fairly reasonable takes. So that's a debuting segment, and we'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
Welcome to JJ's.
I'll have a... Wait, there's no way I can get a burger?
No chance. But you can have the NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount+. Oh, hang on. There's a toy.
Heath, who's the biggest loser from Fantasy Week 7?
It's the Colts. All of them. All the pass catchers, at least, and the quarterback. I said this on FFT Express, the third time in 4 games that Anthony Richardson played a full game and completed 10 passes or fewer. It's absolutely awful out here. Alec Pierce was tied for the team lead in target share. Michael Pittman was the only receiver with more than 30 receiving yards. You can't start Richardson. You can't start Pittman. You can't start Downs. You can't start Alec Pierce. If Jonathan Taylor comes back, you can start him. That's it.
These are numbers that are subject to change because the game's still being evaluated by the statisticians. But Anthony Richardson had an off-target rate today of 20.8%. He threw 24 balls, so that's like 9 passes. He completed 10. It's ugly. 5.4 yards per attempt. What else is gross about this stat line? Who cares?
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Okay. Heath, are you going to drop Pittman and or Downs?
I'm going to try not to.
Jawan Jennings is out there. Did you do it?
Is he definitely playing this week? Because I'm not gonna drop them to pick up Jawan Jennings and hold him while he's hurt and then hold him through his bye week.
I wouldn't say definitely. I say he's in play. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, because they hope to have him back this week is what Kyle Shanahan said. All right, let's move on here. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, let's do that. Here we go. Use the bonus code FANTASY, and you're going to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FANTASY. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. So just make sure you use the bonus code FANTASY when you sign up. All right, here comes our new segment that everybody's been just clamoring for. Adam makes ridiculous fantasy football statements, but when you think about it, these are fairly reasonable takes. Here we go. Number 1. Malik Neighbors' managers are screwed, and that weirdo who said Brian Thomas Jr. will be better than Neighbors might actually be right.
I'm not ready to say that after one game.
Well, I mean, technically, Brian Thomas Jr. has scored more fantasy points than Malik Neighbors this year, so he's already right. But
He's played more games too.
Yeah.
so, I was going to ask you, like, I mean, obviously Andrew Thomas is a really big deal.
It truly is, because they are just not talented enough. It was worse. How many times did he get sacked today? 7 times or something? It was worse than I could have imagined. And by the way, they're sticking with Daniel Jones. He got pulled in the fourth quarter. The Panthers are sticking with Andy Dalton. But it was worse than I could imagine. And it was constant pressure. And it was 4 catches for 40-something yards for Malik Neighbors. Just an awful, awful game. And I am concerned. I'm not saying he's not going to – he has a great schedule. Great schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But I am not going to say I'm not concerned here. I am concerned.
Well, first of all, it wasn't 7 sacks. It was 8 sacks. Sorry about that. And now they've got Pittsburgh coming up this week. So the great schedule part doesn't really begin until week 9.
But it's on the road. Daniel Jones does not play well at home. Daniel Jones on the road is a Hall of Fame quarterback. So I would not be too worried about Neighbors. Not an easy matchup, clearly. So I do think that we might, and granted, it's 2 very easy opponents. But since their bye week, the Eagles' defense looks much better, and maybe Fangio's system is starting to take hold a little bit.
Or they're making changes to Fangio's system, and that seems to be what's working.
Yeah, fair point. I mean, the defense is adjusting and starting to look a little bit better.
So we're not going to start Malik Neighbors against the Commanders, Panthers, or Bucks at home?
I mean, see what I would do if I were the Giants at this point. Like, I would just play Drew Lock at home and Daniel Jones on the road.
There you go.
And, do like, rotate quarterbacks.
All right, but were you going with Brian Thomas Jr. or Malik Neighbors rest of season?
Still Neighbors.
I might go Thomas just because his quarterback situation is. I'll say one thing that they did today. They let Brian Thomas cross the field. They did not.
No, he's been doing that. That's
not as much as he did today. And he did that all on Gonzalez today.
All right. Adam makes ridiculous fantasy football statements, but when you think about it, these are fairly reasonable takes. Part 2. Chase Brown is going to wreck your fantasy leagues, and he is the best buy low in the world ever.
Wait a minute. He's going to wreck our
fantasy week.
Buy low?
Wreck it like he's going to destroy it. That's a good thing. Wrecking. This guy just wrecked your league, bro. He just crushed it.
No one says that.
Everyone says that. You have no idea. You're old, bro. You have no idea. They say wreck things. All right, fine.
Yeah, I'll buy it.
He's going to be great going forward. Chase Brown.
Yeah.
First he calls me fat. Now he's saying I'm old.
I think he's going to have some good
Said
games,
belly.
but
Called you belly.
you want to talk about a bad schedule.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
It's
Want to hear it?
awful.
Okay, no, I don't want to hear it because my next ridiculous fantasy football statement, when you think about it, these are fairly reasonable takes, is we should be worried about the Bengals passing game in the fantasy playoffs when they get at Tennessee, Cleveland, and Denver at home.
Is Tennessee still going to be good by then?
I mean, you know how it is. They didn't have Snead, so they struggled today, but you've been singing their praises all year. And what's with the Bengals here? I mean, they don't throw. Jamar Chase has 1 game with more than 7 targets. He's still producing.
They don't throw. I mean, Joe Burrow's a top 5 quarterback this week based on the league.
Well, no, he's not. He's
No, he had 19 fantasy points.
He's better than Stroud. He's better than Cousins. He's better than Richardson. He's better than
he's
Daniels.
he scored 19.
Coming into this week, he was averaging 28.8 fantasy points per game since T. Higgins got back. Their pass offense has been awesome.
All right, but are you worried about their fantasy playoffs at Tennessee, Cleveland, and Denver?
No.
I'm not worrying about it right now.
It might be enough to make me make a 50-50 trade with some of those guys.
But, I mean, again, like Snead's missed a game. Surtain's missed a game. The Browns defense has not exactly been the same Browns defense.
Well, they just held them to 19.2.
I don't know. I think that Browns defense is still pretty good.
Well, I don't think
I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not exactly like it's something that I'm going to run away from when it comes to Burrow, Higgins, and Chase.
You know what, Jamey? It's time we finally recognize who needs to be recognized today. A big, old, healthy, happy birthday to Ken Walker. Today is Ken Walker's
24.
birthday, and he crushed it. And he was not feeling well either. But yesterday was Jamey's birthday, And we wish Jamey a happy birthday.
Thank you.
You have a good birthday?
I did. Thank you.
Okay.
What'd you do?
My 12-year-old son hit for the cycle yesterday.
Oh,
It's fairly impressive. Nice birthday present. I held him at third, which would have been a home run, inside the park home run. And he said, I know, I got a cycle.
nice. Oh, nice for you. All right, next, Adam's ridiculous fantasy football statement. But when you think about it, these are fairly reasonable takes. Anthony Richardson will be a backup quarterback in 2025.
For the Colts?
Sure. Yeah.
If it's not for the Colts, then a lot of people are getting fired in Indianapolis. And if he's the backup quarterback for the Colts in 2025, a lot of people are going to be fired in Indianapolis.
I don't think they'll move on that fast. More likely to start week 1 next year, Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones.
Anthony Richardson. All right. Next up, Adam's fantasy football statements that you know how it is. Amari Cooper is going to wreck fantasy football leagues. Booyah. He is going to be so good. He had 4 for 66 and a touchdown on 5 targets, and he played 18 snaps today. Amari Cooper wrecking leagues.
He appears to be a wrecker, and definitely someone who will see Josh Allen continue to grow rapport with moving forward.
People hate this. They hate.
Yeah, I think he has a better chance of being a top 12 wide receiver rest of season than Chase Brown has of being a top 12 running back.
Cooper or Neighbors rest of season.
Neighbors.
I'm still going to say Neighbors.
Adam, you better check yourself.
Yeah, I know. Last one. Adam makes ridiculous fantasy football statements. When you think about it, these are fairly reasonable takes. Steve Spagnuolo, Chiefs defensive coordinator, should be in the Hall of Fame.
Might happen.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I
think that's probably already been decided.
don't think there's a single coordinator in the Hall of Fame. Dick LeBeau's in as a player. I don't think he's in as a coach. So I don't know that he's going to be in there. But I could be wrong about that. I was trying to research it beforehand, but God, he's a legend. All right, news and notes. So as I mentioned, Drew Lock replaced Daniel Jones, but they're going back to Jones. Carolina, they're sticking with Dalton. Tyler Huntley left in the third quarter. We're hoping that Tua comes back next week against Arizona. David Montgomery and Tony Pollard gave us an old fooled you, and they came back. They left early in the game.
Yeah, scared you, not a fooled you?
Yeah, scared you.
Yeah, those are scares, not fooled.
And then I didn't really we already talked about the big wide receiver news and tight end. I didn't really see any tight end news. Offensive line, Philadelphia already without their left tackle. Right guard, Mekhi Becton has a concussion. They're at Cincinnati next week. Cincinnati, in the meantime, they lost Orlando Brown Jr., their left tackle, to a knee injury. And that's what I think concerns me a little bit, because we've seen them struggle with pressure the last couple of weeks with the Giants and the Browns. Geno Stone. Oh, sorry. I'll give you more Bengals news later. Cam Robinson, left tackle for and I don't know the severity, by the way, of these injuries. Cam Robinson for the Jaguars, concussion. New England offensive lineman Layden Robinson, ankle. Atlanta lost an offensive lineman, Matthew Bergeron.
Lost 2 in the game.
Yeah, but you said the other one came back. Okay, so thank you. That was.
But I think that's a huge reason why Cousins really turned into a pumpkin today.
Tennessee lost offensive lineman Jalen Duncan, who was a replacement for an already injured lineman. The Giants, bad news for them. Well, they stink, but also Brian Burns left in the third quarter, and cornerback Cordell Flatt left in the first half. Safety Geno Stone for the Bengals left. Green Bay linebacker Quay Walker was evaluated for concussion. Tennessee lost another defensive player, and Kobe Durant for the Rams, he left with an injury. And by the way, the Texans almost won that game with C.J. Stroud throwing for, 86 yards or something, and they were missing half of their defensive starters, which isn't really possible because you start 11. But they were missing 5 or 6. They were missing 5.5 players on defense, and they almost won. Let's take a look at the top 5 at each position, and maybe this has happened before, but I certainly can't remember a week where we don't have a quarterback who has scored more than 25 fantasy points. But your top 5 quarterbacks right now are Josh Allen, and we still have obviously the 6 quarterbacks to go. But Josh Allen, Drake May, Jalen Hurts, Marcus Mariota, and Jared Goff. Jamey, what do you have to say about any of these guys? Josh Allen, Drake May, Jalen Hurts, Marcus Mariota, Jared Goff.
I mean, we all expected Mariota to be this good, so that's encouraging. Goff is just playing very good football right now. It's nice to see a team that has a good offensive line and great weapons. You'd like to see a little bit more out of two guys as opposed to just almost one on a weekly basis. But look, St. Brown, you'll take it. He's the must-start guy. Laporta's kind of falling into this, territory of hard to trust. I think Heath will say, I'll fake it and put him somewhere in the top 12 somewhere again this week. But yeah, I mean, this was a bad week for a lot of star players. It really felt like there was a lot of letdowns across the board at the quarterback spot specifically.
It was, I think, like quarterbacks obviously tied to wide receiver and tight end. It was maybe the best running back week of the season, right?
It was a good one.
It was a good running back week, yeah.
The first couple of weeks, I don't really remember, but the first couple of weeks were obviously very running back heavy and everyone's freaking out about offense, but it was a good running back week. Jared Goff in his last 4 games is completing 83.5% of his passes and averaging 11.9 yards per attempt. And he has 9 touchdowns to 1 interception. And what's his passer rating in these games? It's got to be pretty close to perfect, I would think. I'll see if I can find it, but he has been really fantastic. So good for him. Why do I not see his stupid passer rating? All right. Well, it's stupid. So forget it. I'm just going to say it's perfect. It isn't, but it's close. All right. And then Drake May, it's 2 good weeks in a row. Start taking him seriously or what?
No interceptions today. No DeMario Douglas today. No problem for Drake May. He still was able to put up 2 touchdowns and almost 300 yards. Again, a favorable matchup. So I'm curious to see how he'll do when he runs into a really tough defense down the line.
He does that next week, right?
Next week he's got the Jets. So yeah, that's a tough one. Tennessee after that, Chicago after that. So we'll get some tests from him. And next week nobody's on bye, so I'm not sure what the pressure will be to actually use Drake May. You've got to be in a bad spot with quarterbacks to use them. So maybe it's an replacement for Jane Daniels if Daniels is out.
He's definitely worth rostering. He's definitely worth, taking a look at. Because if he has another good game against the Jets, then he's going to start to enter starting caliber quarterback.
Okay. Very solid. Yeah, perfect passer rating is 158.3. Jared Goff is at 144 point something. All right, let's take a look at the top 5 running backs from week 7. All right, they are Jahmyr Gibbs. Woo, what a move Jahmyr Gibbs put on in the open field. Yeah. And he had a huge game. 31 points for him. Saquon Barkley. I predicted 42 points for him in the preview. I think he had 26. He had 26, so I was close. Javonte Williams is 3. Joe Mixon is 4. Bijan Robinson is 5. If we were redrafting today, would Joe Mixon be a top 5 running back?
No.
Is Joe Mixon the reason CJ Stroud stinks, though?
Stroud was just terrible today.
Well, I mean, this is now 3 games that Joe Mixon has played, and it's 3 games that CJ Stroud has not been the guy that we drafted.
No, but it's not like Stroud's been amazing. He was really off target for much of the game. Pressure. Like the one thing that I loved about him last year was that when he had pressure in his face, he didn't care. He was still completing throws. Maybe he needs Nico Collins back for him to feel more confident when there's pressure on him because he didn't seem that good today. Dell dropped the red zone touchdown. That would have helped CJ Stroud. But here, 115 rush yards for Joe Mixon, 9 receiving yards. So do the math. It's almost 125 yards. Houston had 197 total net yards.
Wow. All right, Dave, question for you because I don't hate to do this to you, but we've got to stand by our opinions here. Because people are asking, do you still think Bijan Robinson is a sell high?
No, I think that at this point, I'm not ready to stick with that. These were 2 great games. I don't know. Maybe I should stick with it.
No, you don't have to.
I haven't thought about it. I really haven't thought about it. But he looked great again today. He was the Joe Mixon for the Atlanta Falcons offense.
He put up
tougher for him moving forward. That was part of the argument for Bijan.
Yeah. All right. He was really terrific today. Top 5 wide receivers: Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., Justin Jefferson. Just another ho-hum, 81 yards and a touchdown for Jefferson. A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf, who didn't even play the full game. This is just like superstars here. And Brian Thomas Jr., I think we consider him just an absolute must start. And then right after that was T. Higgins. And how about Cedric Tillman, Heath? Cedric Tillman going to be a popular guy for you on the waiver wire?
The way I phrased it was like he's a must add in a dynasty league if he got dropped. He's a must add in a deeper league. I think in a 12-team league, it's really dependent on who's available on your waiver wire and how badly you need a wide receiver this week. We've talked about it several times already on the podcast. We'll probably say it 100 times this week, but it does look a little different in the rankings when there's nobody on a bye.
Sure. All right, tight ends. David Njoku is tight end 1. Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, they both have had 2 good games in a row. They're top 5. Njoku, Jonnu Smith, Brock Bowers, Hunter Henry, and George Kittle. All right, we talked about. Oh no, we didn't talk about Hunter.
We talked about Henry on Express, and I'm mostly buying it. He's had the team lead in target share all year long. It's just the pie is now 50% bigger because they have a quarterback. So a 20% target share on 150 passing yards a game is not that exciting. On 250 passing yards a game, it's a lot more exciting. I think he's a top 12 tight end, maybe a top 10.
Do you think he had the big game this week because Douglas didn't play? Or are we just going to completely overlook that because now it's 2 weeks in a row, right?
Well, he was good last week with him too.
2 weeks in a row.
Last week he had a touchdown on 3 catches with 41 yards. I think the thing that you look at is this was a great matchup. We saw Cole Kmet beat them up the week before, so take that into account. But when you're looking at the pass catchers for the Patriots, I mean, there's 2 guys I think that you can sort of say, okay, this is what you're going to get from them when they're healthy, and it's probably Douglas and Henry.
Okay, so just give me like 5 seconds on Jonnu Smith. Anybody buying into this?
No, not when Tua comes back and the receivers actually get targets.
Fair enough. Biggest winners and biggest losers. Let's start with Dave's winners. They are David Njoku and Tank Bigsby. Dave, good
Talked
to go.
about them already. You know what we're going to say. You need 2 more winners, or are we good here?
I got Heath has Hunter Henry and Alexander Mattison, who has started in 44% of leagues, had 26 touches, had 123 total yards. Nice game for him at the Rams. He does get the Chiefs next week, but Mattison is a clear winner for you.
Yeah, I think there was genuine reason to question whether he was a must roster. And he is a must roster. He's probably just not someone you want to consider next week playing against the Chiefs when nobody's on bye. But I saw in Dave's Twitter thread, 69% snap share. Zamir White wasn't even second. That was Amir Abdullah. Alexander Mattison is the lead and feature back for the Raiders.
Jamey's winners are, in kind of a strange way, the Miami wide receivers, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who combined for 2 catches for 19 yards on 4 targets today. But things are looking up for them, I hope.
I mean, they got to play Tua. Like, he's got to be healthy. This is a terrible situation for this entire team if Tua doesn't come back. The fact that they lost this game, they had a 10-0 lead. And Raheem Mostert 10-3 maybe, but Mostert fumbles and they just couldn't move the ball afterwards. So it was tough to watch. And Tua comes back and those guys become superstars again.
Awesome. Well, let's hope it's next week. We don't know that it will be, but it seems like it's approaching. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will talk about some losers. Not Dave, Jamey, and Heath. Fantasy football losers. All right, we'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
All right, we got some losers here. Jamey, let's start with Kirk Cousins, who did not come through today. 9.3 fantasy points against Seattle.
Yeah, pretty bad. Matchup couldn't have been any better. Looking at how Seattle has performed and the injuries that they've been dealing with and dealt with today, and he just didn't get the job done. Like Dave said, Bijan Robinson was good. Cousins missed on some throws early, and just couldn't really get going. So, unfortunately, there were a lot of bad quarterbacks that performed today, and he was one of them.
How much trust do you have in him next week?
Quarterbacks that performed badly today, not bad quarterbacks.
How much trust do you have in Kirk Cousins going forward?
I still will trust him as a low-end starter when he has a favorable matchup, but it felt as if after the Tampa game, clearly that was a dominant performance, but that we were getting to a point where he said he felt better, had some easy matchups coming up against Carolina and Seattle, and it was going to be almost to the point where like you should be able to trust him. I mean, clearly we trust the weapons to certain degrees at this point. London had been playing great. Mooney had some very positive performances, and Pitts was coming on, back-to-back games with 10 plus PPR points. But now you just have to say, okay, I still think those guys are worth starting to various degrees. Mooney probably more now in a 3-receiver league, especially with no teams on bye. London maybe goes from top 5 to top 15. And I think you just look at Pitts as depending on what your team looks like.
Okay, your other loser is Patrick Mahomes, who scored 12.1 fantasy points. That is now 2 games in his last 19 where he has scored more than 21 fantasy points in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. He is 100% rostered. Who is more droppable, Cousins or Mahomes?
I think it's Mahomes. I mean, especially if Juju's out for an extended period of time, like, can you trust this receiving core? They're a running team. Like, they're just about stacking wins, and he's just not a good statistical fantasy option. At some point, he's going to get, I think, a stretch of some good performances here, but it's just, how do you buy it?
Would you buy it if they acquired Deontay Johnson?
I mean, clearly, if they improve their receiving core, there's a lot to like about the situation. But at this point, he's now had Rashee Rice have a excellent start to the season. He had a great game from Juju Smith-Schuster. He still has Travis Kelce healthy for the entirety of the season. It's like, what player is going to come in and all of a sudden say, this is now a reason to trust him across the board, aside from just him and his history, which is a lot. And it's certainly worth buying into. But I mean, right now, rest of season, if you say they're playing the same schedule, who would you rather have as a fantasy quarterback? Drake May or Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, Mahomes. But that's where I don't want
you have to even think about it.
I dropped Mahomes in a league. Someone picked him up immediately, and I didn't care. I was like, great, it's your problem now. But I also think it's like a little unlucky that, man, they just never throw the ball when they're near the end zone. Right? They give it to Hunt so much. So, all right, either way, even if he had, even last week, if he had the touchdown instead of the interception in the end zone last game against the Saints, even that wouldn't have been that good of a game.
21-point day.
Right. All right. Heath's losers are Tank Dell and the Colts. So Tank Dell, no catches on 4 targets, and CJ Stroud, 10 of 21 for 86 yards.
Yeah, the idea that Tank Dell is just an easy guy to plug in and start for as long as Nico is gone does not appear to be true. And especially with all the teams available this week, I don't think I'll probably rank him as a top 30 guy. I'm not sure he'll be a top 36 guy. He's a boom bust flex, and he might only be a boom bust flex for 2 or 3 more weeks.
All right. It does have the Colts if you want to be optimistic about it.
Yeah, but can Indianapolis keep up on the scoreboard?
Probably.
Does that matter?
No, we could have another game for Houston just like this week where Joe Mixon goes banana. And there's no one else
Hill just had the Colts.
Well, I mean,
yeah, but
I mean, we already have a 1-game sample size of this, and it was week 1, and Nico Collins went nuts.
Well, we'll talk about it more next week, but obviously Tank Dell, a huge disappointment. I was excited to start him this week. I had a FanDuel stack of Stroud and Dell. Christian Watson and Jordan Mason are Dave's losers. Who do you want to talk about first, Watson or Mason?
Talked a lot about Mason already. I don't think we need to get into him again. But with Christian Watson, listen, if this were week 1, we'd be scared to even roster Watson, and we'd be all chasing Romeo Doubs. Doubs was a winner this week. Just dominated Houston on slants all game long, set up the game-winning field goal with a catch for Green Bay. Watson played 30 of 56 snaps, 18 routes. By comparison, Doubs had 31 routes. Jaden Reed had 30 routes. Wicks had 17 routes. His only saving grace is the next 2 games. They've got Jacksonville, they've got Detroit, and then the bye week after that. But will he even be good? Will you feel comfortable starting him even with those favorable matchups? I'm nervous that Watson's just going to be, a version of Mahomes at the wide receiver position.
Are we at a point with the Packers receivers after the last 2 games? Granted, there were some injuries there, where we're back to it's just going to be a hodgepodge on a week-to-week basis.
I'm scared of that.
Yeah.
Because Jaden Reed banged up last week, didn't have a great game. Didn't have a great game today.
Yeah, he had a bad
touchdown.
Yeah.
Dobbs.
This is like, it's almost like the 49ers. It is like the 49ers where there aren't a lot of targets. And I kept bringing this up with Jaden Reed, where he was so good on a per target basis, but wasn't getting a lot of targets. And that, as long as the guy's still playing well, you're like, it's fine, whatever. But then when he has a couple bad games, you go, why? He's not getting a lot of targets. So I basically, it's the Packers, it's Jayden Reed. Like, they're great. He's awesome. So I'm probably going to keep starting him, but there are going to be some bad games.
Correct. And that's just the chances you take. But if this continues, and I mean, look, Dobbs, 2 touchdowns last week on 3 catches. That's hard to say that's the type of game that you like, but this is the type of game that you love, what he did today.
Yeah.
So is there just too many mouths to feed? Because we haven't had a lot of, look, all 4 guys are healthy. And this was a game, and I shouldn't say all 4, all 5, because the tight end's a big part of this too. So all 5 guys are healthy. And are we just going to end up, unfortunately, starting the wrong one? I think what you said is accurate. Reed, you just start. And the other guys are more, okay, matchup is good. This has now been 2 or 3 weeks in a row of X. You start this. But Watson, Dobbs, Wicks, to a lesser extent, could just be a roll of dice on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah. By the way, sorry to talk about the Sunday night game, but we just missed a punt from Wait Man. Pittman is going to be so irrelevant that I really have to find other guys to play the music for. Yes. All right. Almost touchdowns. Christian Kirk nearly caught a touchdown. DK Metcalf dropped a touchdown. It was a really tough play, but he dropped it. Ken Walker had a ridiculous move that scored a touchdown, but he had to call back. Giants tight end Theo Johnson had a touchdown call back because he pushed off. Nick Chubb had a touchdown call back, but then he scored a few plays later. Keon Coleman celebrated an almost touchdown. And San Francisco wide receiver Ronnie Bell had a touchdown overturned. And that ended up in a Brock Purdy 1-yard touchdown sneak. Jacksonville 32, New England 16. Oh, Ramondre Stevenson. Heath, I thought this was going to be a game where we might be able to trust him, but the score got away from them. But anyway, what do you think about Ramondre Stevenson going forward with the Jets and the Titans and the Bears next week? Oh, my.
I think that he's still probably in that borderline RB2 discussion, but this was a gross game. Not sure if he was completely 100% coming into it. There were some limited practices this week. Certainly not a must-start guy. Probably in the Javonte Williams range, that it just depends on who has a better matchup each week between guys like that.
Played 50% of the snaps. He just didn't play much on third downs. The Patriots didn't get inside the 10. It's tough, man. Like when you're going to be the lead running back of an offense, it just isn't very explosive and doesn't get near the goal line very much. What's left to do? And when they got behind, they completely aborted on using Ramondre whatsoever.
Drop or hold Christian Kirk, Jamey. 1 catch for
24 yards.
24 yards? Okay, I was reading Gabe Davis's stats. But 1 catch for 24 yards on 3 targets for Kirk.
I would not want to drop him, but similar to like what we said on Friday about Cortland Sutton, like if he's the last guy on your bench, then you may need to put him there. He's definitely droppable in 10-team leagues.
All right, Cincinnati 21 and Cleveland 14, and Cleveland had the ball for 34 minutes and 29 seconds. How are we feeling about, okay, how about this? Nick Chubb or Chase Brown rest of season?
Brown.
I think I'd lean Brown, but they're kind of the same guy.
Heath, you said
it sounds a little silly.
They don't feel like the same guy at all.
They're very different.
The same guy.
Go ahead, justify that.
I thought they're the same guy because I think they're both running downs back for their teams. And in the case of Nick Chubb, we just don't know how close he can get to where he was. Is there a chance for Chase Brown to be a 3-down back for Cincinnati? Could he completely make? We already know that Zach Moss is like irrelevant for fantasy.
Moss injury.
Yeah, like if Moss gets Moss still played 49% of the snaps. So can Chase Brown become a feature 3-down back for Cincinnati? Because I don't think Nick Chubb's going to be that for Cleveland.
Without a Moss injury, probably not.
Yeah, I get okay. You that was a good explanation.
Right. Now listen, before the injury, there was clearly Chubb was head and shoulders better than Chase Brown. I don't know if we're going to see that Nick Chubb this year. We didn't see him in week 7.
Rest of season, Burrow or Baker?
Burrow.
I think
gonna stick with
Burrow
Baker.
will throw more than Baker, so I will say Burrow.
God, I can't really figure out are they running the ball a lot? Are they just not running a lot of plays? Heath, do you know this? What is the issue here with the Bengals?
What is the issue? Well, early in the year, it was a good problem. They just like when you throw 75-yard touchdown passes, you don't run as many plays in that game.
I think
they are currently the bottom in offensive plays run. They're at 57. But that's only like 5%. Like league average is 60, 61. So it's just like 3 or 4 plays fewer than league average.
All right, whatever. You're mostly getting production there. Detroit 31 and Minnesota 29. Really good game here. And Montgomery had a bad game for the first time. He did not score for the first time.
He also didn't play a full game. He left with an injury and came back after, I want to say 2 drives. It might have been only 1 drive.
Oh, I can't wait for you to Azer stat the bleep out of this one. In games that Montgomery has finished or played X amount of snaps, he still scored a touchdown every game.
Right.
Good.
We could wipe that one out. He played 36% of the snaps.
Oh, yeah. No, this one.
Okay, no, I can't count that again. That's not enough. That's not enough. But what about Sam Laporta? 1 catch for 25 yards on 2 targets. What are we saying to the Sam Laporta manager, Jamey?
If David Njoku's on your waiver wire, you're probably making a move. If Hunter Henry is on your waiver wire, you might be picking him up and starting him. I mean, look, it's not pretty right now. You know, we talked about this on Friday's HQ show about the panic meter for Sam Laporta, and I thought we were starting to see some signs of life. You know, the Seattle game when he had 4 catches on 4 targets when Goff was 18 of 18, and then he has the touchdown. You know, okay, maybe we'll start to see a little bit more volume for the Lions and things will start to, tick up for him, but it's just not happening right now. And so it's hard to just say he's an auto start. I think if you're struggling right now, he's somebody that you should be looking to replace.
Hey,
Florida. Yeah. Hey,
Panama City, Florida.
Panama. What is that? Yeah.
It's 32412. That's their zip code. And that's Sam Laporta's targets in each of his last 5 games. So he's the Panama City, Florida of tight ends at this point.
I like that. That was pretty good.
I'm ready to move forward without Sam Laporta being a
Panama
City team.
Yeah.
Sam Laporta or Mark Andrews rest of season.
Let's see what Andrew does tomorrow night.
Yeah. Let's see what city Mark Andrews has been living in for his last 5 games.
How about Jordan Addison? He is 94% rostered. He had 3 for 66 on 4 targets. Is that too high of a roster percentage for Jordan Addison?
No.
I don't think so. The only concern would be is Hawkinson could be back next week, and then you have Jefferson's share of the pie and the other 2 guys splitting up the rest.
Oh, would you, if you had to make this decision, hopefully you don't, would you drop Sam Laporta for Jordan Addison?
Would I drop Sam Laporta? I mean, I have to have another.
I'm sorry, for TJ Hawkinson.
Would I drop
Laporta?
Hawkinson for
Am
Sam
I sure
Laporta?
that Hawkinson?
Would you rather have Laporta or Hawkinson?
Hawkinson.
I would still rather have Laporta.
I can still hope about Hawkinson. He's the mystery box.
Hey, Carmen San Diego over there. Where would you rather have Hawkinson?
I love Brees Hall.
Hawkinson or Laporta?
I might want to lean toward Hawkinson because I think he'll see more targets on a game-to-game basis. I love Brees Hall too, Heath. I don't know if there's a place that's got 51154 as a zip code, but that seems to be part of the population in Zanesville, Ohio, so that's what Mark Andrews is.
Okay, great. Next up, Green Bay 24 and Houston 22, and my TV, which is 2 minutes behind, just Brees Hall. So Green Bay 24, Houston 22, and all right, let's see. What do we got here? I think we pretty much have covered the – well, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about C.J. Stroud. We don't know when Nico Collins is coming back. And I think I was thinking about this today or yesterday, whenever, but the 2, they got to be on everyone's breakouts list were Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud. Mm-hmm. And even with Nico Collins, I would say it really wasn't happening for C.J. Stroud. Not that he was bad, but he wasn't really breaking out. He wasn't a huge fantasy difference maker. So do we still have that hope for him that he is going to wreck people's leagues and win you your fantasy championship?
Like wrecking leagues, all right.
That was the problem, though. I think with the Stroud breakout case it was kind of hard for me to see him wrecking people's leagues. It was easier to see Jaden Daniels as the league wrecker or Richardson because of that potential upside. Like do you want to play the game? Where does CJ Stroud rank in fantasy points per game this season?
No, it's going to depress me.
After today, it's got to be miserable.
Yeah, it's 16.
Nailed it. 16.
Yeah.
18 fantasy points per game. Like, I think he'll probably end up around 20 or 21, but I didn't really have a whole lot of hope that he was going to be over 25.
Okay. All right, for the Packers. Oh, Josh Jacobs caught a touchdown. First of his career. Good stuff. Anything else to say about
screen inside the 10?
Oh, they threw 2 in a row to him. They definitely wanted this to happen.
Yes.
Anything else to say about the Packers? Talked about the receivers earlier.
No.
All right. Let's go to
Jordan
Colts.
Love is becoming Brett Favre, by the way.
He's fun. Colts 6.
I was wondering if he's going to have a Jameis season. He's aiming for 30-30 the last couple of weeks.
Good. Yeah. A lot of gunslinging.
Colts 16, Miami 10. And what do you think of?
And we're done with this game.
No. What do you guys think of the backfield split for the Dolphins? 15 carries for Achane, 11 for Mostert, 5 for Jalen Wright, and 2 catches for Achane, none for Mostert or Wright. But when you see this kind of work for Achane, what does it make you feel like when Tua's back? What are you thinking for Achane?
I'm thinking that he'll still be. He's certainly the most startable running back of the Dolphins trio. And I think you just roll him out there because you know what the upside is. And if he's going to touch the ball 17 times a game, I'll hope that 2 of those touches can end up being huge plays that help my fantasy team. What I don't like is that he didn't have any snaps inside the 10. They had 3 of those. They all went to Mostert. And so if he's healthy, does that mean that Achane's not going to get a lot of those? I don't know if we can even say that, though, because before all these injuries, Achane was getting work inside the 10 with Tua.
Yeah.
Buy low, buy low, buy low.
I don't know if you're going to be able to.
Well, would you rather have Jacobs or Achane?
What's my record?
3-4-3 or 3-4?
Achane.
Yeah, I'll take Achane. Like even with the
I'll reluctantly take Jacobs, but I mean you can't ignore the upside that Achane has.
Okay.
I just wouldn't ignore his downside either.
What do you guys think about Mo Alley Cox?
I don't.
Right,
Goodson played as many snaps as Sherman today, and he had 6 of 7 snaps inside the 10. I don't know if it's going to matter because hopefully Jonathan Taylor will be back, and they've got Houston this coming week. But I wonder if Goodson's the better running back after all. I wonder if the coaches saw what we saw, Adam, which is
it's definitely Adam nailed it. It's the Ogunbowale Akers, the veteran guy got phased out.
Yeah.
All right, Philadelphia 28 and the Giants 3. This is just super one-sided. But a huge disappointment was Devontae Smith. Now, Jalen Hurts only threw 14 passes. Heath, are we going to give Devontae Smith a pass for this?
I would say that we're going to. What's the Dallas Goedert status?
Don't know.
Because I will give him less of a pass if Dallas Goedert's back. I think he's a borderline wide receiver 2. High end. This week he might be a wide receiver 3. But you're mostly giving him a pass. You're probably still starting him.
Okay.
They only threw 15 passes in the game. One of them was by Kenny Pickett.
Right.
He definitely gets a pass from me.
He'll be a number 2 receiver if Goddard's out because they get Cincinnati. That's got shootout all over it.
It's got what?
Tyrone Tracy was, I would say, the lead back. I mean, they didn't really try to run the ball, but he was the lead back. Only 9 touches. Singletary had 6. Yeah, and you know what? They were both rostered in 90% of leagues and started in 24 to 30% of leagues. I think people wanted to wait and see. I don't know when you're going to be comfortable starting him, but if you're in a pinch, Tyrone Tracy's the guy to have, not Singletary.
60-40 without their all-important king tackle. Are they ever good starts?
Ooh.
I mean, look, it's not going to be this bad every week, probably, but they're going to be a bad offense now. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, they were average, now they're bad. Hi, Jamey.
Later, Jamey.
Oh, happy birthday.
You're a day late and $1 short.
$1 short, yeah.
If you like the matchup for the Giants, I think Tracy proved today that he's going to be the lead back. I know the numbers don't really look good for either running back, and that's fair to say, but he played almost 70% of the snaps, 9 of 14 snaps on third down. All of their snaps inside the 10, all one of them went to Tyrone Tracy. Singletary didn't play until the last snap of the first quarter. I asked the beat reporter what was up with that. He thinks that they just kind of managed Singletary in this game. We'll see. Next week, it could be a 50-50 split all over again. And I don't know. I'll look at their schedule. I'll tell you when you might feel comfortable starting a Giants running back. It's not going to be next week against the Steelers.
It's going to be Carolina in 3 weeks.
No, it could be Washington in week 9.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm starting to think Washington's defense is, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Seattle 34, Atlanta 14. Geno Smith scored 21.8 fantasy points. He is 81% rostered. He gets tough matchup against the Bills next week. Ken Walker is amazing. But we did see like Ken Walker in a game where they only threw 28 passes. Ken Walker's not catching 6 balls. He did catch 2 and he scored a touchdown. All right. JSN, Heath, drop him, keep him, wait to see what happens with Metcalf.
I don't want to drop him, even if they say DK Metcalf is perfectly fine. I don't think we're I do think he probably needs an injury and someone to go away, or he's just going to be like this guy you put in at flex on a random week and hope that that's the week that he scores 20 fantasy points. But more often than not, he's going to score single digits.
Lockett had more yards than him again. So
I think it's pretty and this shouldn't be that big a surprise because Tyler Lockett's a hell of a football player. Tyler Lockett's better than Jackson Smith and Jigba. He is a better wide receiver.
Well, he's been playing it forever too. And he's faster.
And he still is at this advanced age.
What are we thinking about Darnell Mooney? 5 catches, 46 yards on 8 targets. He will get Tampa Bay next week.
He'd be a number 3 receiver or a bye week replacement wide out. The matchup next week is favorable for him, so he'll probably be in that role for me.
I will say if I had to drop one of them, I would drop JSN before I drop Mooney.
Yeah, I would agree. Hey, so with Bijan and the whole buy low or sell high thing, I should say, he played 75% of the snaps with Cousins today. That would be a 4-week high. And he dominated in all the short work. I think Algier might have been banged up in the game, and that could have played a role. So if Algier if there is an injury, don't quote me on the Algier injury, but I think it happened. If he were to miss time, then obviously Bijan's going to be on the rocket ship.
What do you think, guys?
You can keep the for sale sign on Bijan Robinson, but I think the price went up. And at this point, I don't know if anybody's going to pay like 101 value for Bijan Robinson.
All right. What do we got? 4 games left. Can we do it in 8 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it. Buffalo 34, Tennessee 10. Calvin Ridley, 3 catches, 42 yards on 9 targets. What do we think about Ridley, Heath?
2 awful drops. Terrible, terrible football play. It was not good. Really bad.
Drop him. He's 73% rostered.
I would drop JSN before I would drop him. I think I would drop him before I would drop Mooney.
All right. And Josh Allen, it really looked like he was going to have a terrible game. But as we sit here on Sunday night, he is QB1 with 25 fantasy points.
Tied for it.
Yeah, he's still going to be QB1 when we wake up tomorrow.
Algier did not play on at least the next drive, maybe even the next 2 drives for Atlanta. The last 2 drives, I should say.
I don't know if we can really do a lot of takeaways for Buffalo because Ridley barely played in this game. So you're looking at a good game from Khalil Shakir, not bad from Dalton Kincaid.
What does Ridley have to do with it?
He meant
Cooper.
Keon Coleman had a good day.
Keon Coleman had a good day.
Almost a great day.
Yeah. So I don't really know. Yeah. All right. Washington 40. Just keep that in mind. Everything could be worse when as soon as next week when you get a normal snap share from Calvin Ridley Cooper. Washington 40, Carolina 7, a blowout here, and still Chuba Hubbard gets in the end zone. Didn't have a catch though. That was after 5 straight games with 4 to 5 catches. Deontay Johnson with a total dud here. Buy low on Deontay Johnson?
I believe I'm going to do the Adam thing where I say what the tweet said and not what the video necessarily said. But I believe Deontay Johnson did the I can't play every position. quote after the game today.
Oh, I don't really know what that means. But
remember, he can't throw the ball and catch the ball too.
Mm.
I think Deontay can't throw the ball and catch the ball and block for his quarterback too.
Yeah,
Can't do it.
Bad day at the office for the Carolina Panthers. So buy low or heck no?
I'd buy low.
Very low.
There's two paths here for Deontay. Number one, we've seen him bounce back from games like this before. And number two, he could get traded.
Yeah. Okay. And then for the Commanders, Austin Eckler did not score double-digit PPR fantasy points. Brian Roberts did score a touchdown. It's 2 straight games with 0 catches for Brian Robinson. Do you think that's injury/score related? Because remember 2 games ago when he played, they said they took him out because of game script. And then this game was a total blowout. Or is this something to be concerned about?
Sure. When they're blowing out a team or they're getting blown out, you're not going to see Robinson on the field when he's not 100%.
I get that. I'm just saying. Okay. All right. There you go. And then McLaurin I was really stunned by how well Marcus Mariota played. So
yeah. You know why?
He was playing against air.
Yeah. There is no doubt that
Carolina
is the
Carolina
easiest matchup for anyone to play against.
Carolina. That's what we're going to use that the rest of the year.
Including Zach Ertz, who had 4 for 40 and a touchdown. But he is 75% rostered. Zach Ertz or Hunter Henry?
Henry will probably get more targets.
Rams 20, Raiders 15. And yeah, Mattison, a big winner here.
Sean McVay said after the game they expect Cooper Kupp to play on Thursday.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
That's cool.
Kyron Williams
in your top 24.
Yeah.
I really don't have anything to say about this. Is Matthew Stafford going to have a big finish to the year now that Cooper Kupp is back?
I don't think so.
I think he could.
I don't think there's a
It's
story.
not going to be just Cooper Kupp. It's going to be Nakua. Although there are some rumors that Kupp could get traded.
Yeah.
Is Brock Bowers the tight end one rest of the season?
In PPR, yes.
I still think I'd go with Kittle, but
yeah, with that Ayuk injury, that really makes Kittle a lot better. But I still
it does. But today, Brock Bowers became Gardner Minshew's Michael Pittman.
I do think it's a big deal that Jacoby Myers didn't play.
Yeah,
I do too. But I think the short area target is what Gardner Minshew's just going to keep hitting.
Oh my gosh. Over and over and over again. And that's Bowers. That's Bowers in this offense. He's Michael Pittman.
I don't know. I'm guessing. I think I know what's about to happen on my lagging computer or TV.
Oh, you have no clue.
No. Yeah.
But Kansas City won 28-18. Not 128, not 128, but 28-18.
I wish. Mahomes might have a good game if they scored 128 points.
No.
Do you try to trade Kareem Hunt to the Pacheco manager here?
Yes.
That's assuming that the Pacheco manager is going to want to pony up what it should take to get Kareem Hunt. He's carrying at least RB2 value. We don't know for sure that Pacheco's coming back. If I've got Hunt and I don't have Pacheco and I've got IR spots, I'm trying to steal Pacheco for a song right now. Give that Pacheco manager who could be 3-4 or worse, give him a possible flex. Give him some of the guys that we talked about today that are kind of falling or fading or whatever F word you want to use.
Well, watching Russell Wilson, there are plenty. All right, we talked about the 49ers quite
That would
enough.
be failing. That would be his F word.
I think that's it for
maybe George Pickens will be nicer to Justin Fields now.
Hey, it's only the second quarter, folks. It's just beginning. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow with
That's
Beyond
the problem. It's just beginning
on fantasy football today. I want to thank Dave, Jamey, and Heath, and Thomas, and thank you all for watching and listening. Yeah, we're back tomorrow with Jacob and Dan for Beyond the Box Score at noon Eastern, youtube.com/fantasyfootball today. You should hear it about 2 p.m. Eastern in your podcast feed. Talk to you then.